First of all, thank you, Nilesh, for having me here. I've heard a lot about IISM, the IISM, potential IISM to be graduates who are really going to take our Indian sport forward. So today I have been asked to talk about women in sport. And let me just quickly narrate what happened to me when I was doing shows for the 2016 Olympics. And this news channel where I was commenting on, after Sindhu and Sakshi's medal, came and said, oh, we have to highlight women power and women in sport. And so it went on for a day, then it went on for 2 days and 3 days. And then I started getting a little irritated. Okay. About 2 months after that, I was invited to another forum to give a talk on women in sport again. So my first initial reaction is saying I'm not going to talk about women in sport because it's too overflogged a topic and I'm not going to address it. So I started writing a speech on something completely different. Then one morning, I woke up and I said, wait, hang on. This is my chance to actually prove my point, to make a point loud and strong. And I'd written a speech, okay, on this forum, which I'd like to share with you today. And I'll actually read it out. When I read this speech, believe you me, it's not only for the women here. It's for everyone. And I would urge you not to look at it as a feminist sort of talk. I would like to share some of my experiences, and that's where this whole speech has come from, right? So put on just as a sports person. So it goes like this. For India, the 2016 Olympics was hailed as the Women's Olympics. While this is true, after a point it became tiresome. To me, it was 2 Indians that brought home medals the entire country was waiting for. Why did we need to limit this to women? Was the 2008 Olympics tagged as the Men's Olympics because Abhinav Bindra, Sushil Kumar and Vijayendra Singh won medals? So it's quite common for any competition to be categorized by gender, age, territory or nationality, body of work, etc. Even awards follow these norms sometimes. For example, some of the film awards have Best Actor Male and likewise Best Actor Female. In sports, the prestigious Laureus World Sports Awards have Sportsman of the Year and Sportswoman of the Year. But if you notice, this distinction is made equally on both sides, which is fine. Yet when referring to sports, so often the female tag is used as an introduction, an identifier for women, whilst the male tag continues to be absent from the men. Imagine if Sachin Tendulkar was given the tag of being the best male cricketer of all time. Have you ever heard that? Yeah. So recently, Serena Williams, in an open letter for a women's magazine, wrote, "My dream was to be the best tennis player in the world, not the best female tennis player in the world." So why is it reached a stage where women get defensive about being called female, and then if they speak up, be touted to be a feminist? Why is women in sport spoken about and discussed so commonly, not only in India, but the world over? Undoubtedly, sportswomen face a huge number of challenges, and the number of women involved in sport across capacities needs to increase. But the crux, according to me, still remains that the belief that women don't belong in sport. That if a woman is playing sport or is involved in sport, she is doing something extraordinary. That is against her natural being. And hence, she has to be reminded about this fact over and over again. There's a saying, how many of you all have heard of the author Chimamanda? She's a very famous author, and she says a single story creates stereotypes. And the problem with stereotypes is not that they are untrue, but that they are incomplete. They make one story become the only story. And the women's story is based on these premises. Women are expected to be short and slender, small and delicate. Women are supposed to be shy and passive and submissive. Women don't know anything about sports and only watch games because they think the athletes are hot. And select few that attempt to play sport only do so to woo men. Obviously, with a story like this, it is assumed that women are not ideal candidates for the tough, cruel sporting world. But when I think about it and look around, I sometimes am amazed at the traits of a woman that we choose to ignore when we come to this shallow conclusion. How many of us have seen an angry housewife with a sari tucked into them with a balan? They throw pots and pans, which is pretty accurate. They could be good at shot put, archery, boxing, even perhaps. The aggressive outburst of ladies at the local sabzi wala. If been charged 2 rupees extra, what happens? Have you seen their behavior? Right? Behavior enough to cause yellow, red cards. Okay, I have seen women carry gas cylinders on their backs and walk up slopes. They carry an infant on their side while making chapatis. A friend's grandmother in the village can churn out butter with her bare hands. Isn't this strength endurance? And recently there was a school sports day function where, these mothers races and all, and you see these ladies in their saris running the 100 meters. So just imagine if they were in shorts and skirts, how fast they would run. Okay? And finally, my final example would be, if you can manage your mother-in-law and other relatives and stay in the good books of all the other relatives, that requires major strategizing. Yeah, so decoding a match is much less complicated than that, right? Female gender stereotypes always play on the notion of women's inequality to men. The very word softball is indicative of a bias when compared to baseball or hardball. But what is with comparisons? Like in singing, we all possibly agree that the gentler and more pleasant voice is that of the female. But we have learned to appreciate the male singers as well. In sport, admittedly, the pace of play in a women's game might be slower than a man's, but like singing, can't we learn to appreciate the two independently? Can't we recognize the fact that the hard work and sacrifices are identical in the case of both men and women? Largely in competitive sport, women do not compete with men. Ultimately, women are competing against women only, right? Assuming that they have unfortunate, unsportsmanlike qualities, it still makes for a level playing field and competition. It's not really about gender. It's about circumstance, perception, and opportunity. It is very often believed that women's sport doesn't really matter and sports doesn't really matter to women. Well, performances of our champion sportspersons like Hima Das, of recent, Sania Mirza, Saina Nehwal, PV Sindhu, Mary Kom, Malleshwari, PT Usha, Sakshi Malik, Deepa Karmakar, Deepa Malik all destroyed this myth. They have ensured that women's sport matters to each one of us. Over the years, we have had women in the sports media who have reached, at each step, competed for a place in this male-dominated bastion. They have lugged around heavy camera equipment to help their camera persons, worked long hours without playing damsel in distress, wrote effortlessly on both men and women across sports with in-depth knowledge, basically exhibiting supreme professionalism throughout all because sports matters to them. Female fans nowadays talk fluently about the EPL and El Clasico and the myriad managers and their teams. They know their offsides from their dusras and sit late into the night watching the US Open golf, going down to the wire, and even a pro kabaddi match. The Gerard is so cute squeals, could be Ronaldo now, are present, but so are their piercing assessments of the sport. Slowly, we are seeing an increase in female coaches, physios, physiotherapists, administrators, because they have a handle on sports matters. Women were known for their prowess in sports that requires strength and finesse. Gymnastics, figure skating, synchronized swimming, beach volleyball. Today, that sports lexicon has been expanded. Women participate in the Olympics for the first time in 1900. Paris, where they took part in only 5 sports. Today, all the sports are open to women. Women in sport, by all means celebrate it. Just please don't overemphasize. Women no longer long to be in the sporting world. They have arrived. They are not here to take over the space of men. They are here to share the space. Thank you.